Okay, here we are with Groningen-based Jorrit. I'm going to have you say the name of your bureau.
Ja, bureau Buitendienst.
Okay. And right, so we're here because we wanted to talk with you about the parking lot terraces evaluation that your bureau did. For some background, the municipality conducted a pilot between 2018 and 2020 to allow parking terraces in the summer to be used for space for small business owners, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
Okay. And so I think this is really interesting because as I was reading the synopsis you sent me, the pilot was before the pandemic.
yeah,
So there was already this innovative use of removing space from cars and transforming these parking terraces into space for use for small businesses, cafes, restaurants, pubs, usually which people generally tend to love, I think, especially in the summer months. However, then the pandemic and all the things that the pandemic brought up then led to an increased desire for using public space this way, which then led the municipality to asking your bureau to evaluate. So can you share a bit about the evaluation process and the findings?
sure. Yeah. So yeah, you said it correctly. So before they did a pilot already, so there were a few small business owners that asked whether they could use parking spaces in front of their bar or restaurant to use as a terrace. But there were just a few of them. So like I think two or three. Um, so it didn't make sense for the municipality to do an evaluation based on just a few small business owners. But then when the pandemic started, the demand increased tremendously. So they figured, well, we started a pilot a few years ago. We haven't really done the evaluation enough to say whether we should allow this in like a bigger form. So if all these small businesses would use these parking spaces, yeah, is it something that we want as a city? So yeah, we talked with all these small business owners, also with the small business owner that didn't get a permit, with the neighborhood associations. We also talked with the Municipality of Rotterdam, where this policy is already in place for, I think, since 2016, to see, well, would like a fixed policy about parking lot terraces be something that is beneficial for the city? And the short answer is yes.
And your findings determined that yes, because it helps to create a more livable city and it adds more economic value. Can you share a bit about the added economic value that the policy for a fixed policy for parking lot terraces would create?
Yeah. So the added economic value is basically for these small business owners, and especially during the pandemic, it was really needed. So I don't know how it was, how the policy were elsewhere, but in the Netherlands, long times there was no possibility to open your company, and at a certain point there were bars and restaurants that could open, but only outside. So yeah, a terrace and every square meter of terrace or every place that you can offer outside was really helpful. So the municipality already also not only the parking lot terraces, but also other terraces got more space to yeah, to be able to remain open. But yeah, because of this increased demand, they asked for this evaluation to come, and the small business owners were very happy, and they also felt yeah, saw the possibility to really make something of it. So on the one hand, they maybe claimed what was now more or less public space, but on the other hand, they also took care of this and also talked with all the neighbors. There was a mandatory, so every small business owner had to get approval from the neighbors to do this. So there was contact between small business neighbors, and it really enhanced neighborhoods.
Oh, that's great. And I'm curious, is it just seasonal now, or is it through the whole year?
Now it's just seasonal, so only in the summer months. We have like a let's say terrace season in the Netherlands that's maybe between April and October, more or less. I think this policy now is more or less aimed between like June, July, and August. So really the warmest or hottest months of the year. Also because Groningen is really a student city. So in the summer time, it tends to be less active. So there are less people using space. So also parking lots are not used or demanded as much as the rest of the year. So also municipality said it is a good time to, if you want to get parking spaces out of the out of the city for time of the year, this is the best time to do so, because there's less pressure on the city to have them.
Okay, well, it's really interesting. And so your bureau also, your entire ethos is really working towards greener, more inclusive cities. Can you share anything else that you guys have done or are working on? I think it's really interesting to learn what you're doing.
Well, I think one interesting project I would like to share. So we started with the idea that also that citizens, like residents of the city, really know best what is good for them and for their own neighborhood, and they can get help from, for example, municipalities or professionals to help them develop this idea into practice. So I don't think you should only ask people just what they want, but really work together with people to see what is needed in the city. But therefore you need to really talk to people and also be able to talk to the right people. So what you see, I think also elsewhere in the world, is there just a select group of people that's only like consulted what should be done in a neighborhood or in a city. So we try to change that. And one thing, like 3 years ago already, we did a mini golf tour through the city center. So you could come and play mini golf. So there were a lot of kids, international students, families, basically all the people that wouldn't come to like a regular, like a town hall meeting.
Right.
And talked with us about what they would miss in the city and how we could make the city center more interesting for people to meet each other, play, and recreate. So it was really interesting group of people to talk about the future of the city instead of the people that regularly are asked for their opinion. So I think that's a good example of how you can change the perspective on your own city by asking the right people and to ask the right questions and to program the right activities.
Oh, that's so much fun, right? And for an increasing civic engagement, right, from people who either are not interested in a town hall meeting, or again because of kids maybe can't make it, but they can come and converse. That's really exciting. I like that idea a lot. I'm sure you have some great pictures of that.
We have,
you have some good coverage. Okay, that's really exciting. Okay, so I want to do a city walkability rating in a moment, but about the one more thing about the parking lot terraces. So I think it's common in a lot of cities that have been experiencing changes with public space. One of the few controversies that often comes up with this repurposing of space is the question of, well, should we repurpose it to be truly public? Because once it's for a small business, it's then not truly public. So how did your bureau kind of work with that? If that was a controversy at all at the local level, how did you guys work with that?
Well, yeah, it's a really good question, because it actually was kind of a controversy, or at least it was something to take into consideration. The Municipality of Groningen is really trying to like reclaim public space to make the city more. They do it for decades already. So we have a car-free city center since the 1970s or 80s. So for a really long time already. I think there are more bicycles than people almost in the city. I think more than 60% of all traffic is bicycle traffic. So they really trying to make a livable city, and especially regarding sustainable mobility. So yeah, if you take out a parking lot, which is personally I think is most of the time a really good idea to reclaim public space, shouldn't this space be for everyone? So to make it really a public space, or should it be for one business owner? So if you're not able to like buy this, for example, cup of coffee or beer on this terrace, then it still isn't public space. So shouldn't be more space be for the public, and to have more public seating instead of terraces. We talked about it, and we also looked at the amount of applications for this parking lot terraces. And if you look at the whole city, so the municipality is also trying to reduce the amount of space for parking, if possible, and trying to make more space for the people. So I think it's a balance, and especially now. So if you see how many parking spaces are transferred into terraces, and because it's temporary, I think it's fair to say that it could be combined. Yes.
Great. I like that. It's a balance, because it certainly wasn't really truly public when it's a parking lot. You really can't do anything there but parks, one of the most unfair uses of public spaces. And in defense of the parking lot terrace ideas too, I mean, I'm sure this was a lifeline to many businesses, especially due to the pandemic. Helps a lot of businesses to actually survive as well. So it's really interesting to hear. I'm going to look forward to following your bureau and what you're doing. So let's do a city walkability rating to close out here. So we're going to do the city walkability. We're going to do, of course, walkability, public transport, and bicycling for your city on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is the lowest, 10 is the highest. So you pick what we start with.
Okay, I would say walkability is 8.5. So it's a really walkable city. It's a compact city, so it's really also now the city is growing. It's really try to grow within like the city lines. You don't grow much bigger in size, but more or less try to make it more condensed, if that makes sense. So it is a really accessible city to walk, but also to cycle. So I think the city center is really great to walk around. They also try to do it with shared spaces. So they really try to put the cyclists, but also the pedestrian first. So I think that's great. Why it's not a 10 is because they could do more, in my opinion, for people with physical disabilities, and they are working on that. So make it more wheelchair accessible, or think about people with visual disabilities to make it more accessible. But besides that, I think it's a perfect city to walk around and to roam in. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great explanation. Okay, so what's next? Cycling or public transit?
I think cycling, because Groningen is one of the cycling cities in maybe the world even. So we competed, I think, with Copenhagen a few years ago. They won it, but yeah. So if you look at these statistics, it's a perfect place to cycle. But I still would say like a 8.5, because we had this car-free city center, but also because there's a big amount of students living in the city. We do have a lot of bicycles and also good bicycle infrastructure. But again, I think we currently are very happy being a bicycle city, and there's still room for improvement. So to remain a cycling city, we should try to innovate and keep up. For example, the bicycle parking. There are so many bicycles that bicycle parking is starting to be a problem, which, yeah, much better than car parking, but still, you should choose how to use your public space. Yeah, so I will leave it at that. But I think it's a perfect city to cycle and to walk, but there are still improvements to make. And public transport. Great question. I think maybe an 8, because the city center is car free, but also we also start to get the buses out of the city center. The city center is now gets worse accessible for all people to go there and go from. So I think there's a bit of improvement that could be made there.
So buses, is that the main public transit in the city? It's buses. There's no.
Because of no trams, no metro. Because of our size of the city, it's buses and trains. Yeah.
Buses and trains. Okay. Those are still really strong scores. So it's a true cycling city and really strong walkability.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Okay. How lovely. Well, thank you. And it was really so great to hear about the parking lot terraces.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for your time, and hope to follow your work more. So thanks.